Well, public meltdowns seem to have soared in unlikely places, right? Airports, airplanes, inside upscale restaurants, and even on the Oscars awards stage. Some say Will Smith's actions were triggered by childhood trauma. Here to help us understand the impact past trauma can have on our reactions is Dr. Curly Bonds, Chief Medical Officer with the Los Angeles Department of Mental Health. Dr. Bonds, we thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we don't want to frame this as an excuse, but we are seeing these, outbursts of rage in all public places. Tell us what's happening, and are we seeing a rise, and why you think that's happening?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. There has been a greater public awareness of some of the violent activities that people have engaged in. Some of those have happened privately. We know that domestic violence incidents have gone up by 25 to 35% during the pandemic, especially violence towards women. But I think the types of public things that are put on social media now really get quickly magnified and shared when they go viral. So we just have seen people at wit's end. They're sort of behaving badly against one another because they just have less resource internally to help calm themselves. And I think when that happens, it expresses itself in very unfortunate and violent ways.
Well, Dr. Bonds, let me ask you this. I always enjoy having conversations about what you hit on their social media. How much is it is a combination of what you were just saying, that we're now more aware of things that may have been happening already, but also just maybe this new added pressure of things, right? Or even you see a lot of youngsters do things on purpose, like I'm going to beat this kid up and show it online and just to get clout. How much of social media have you seen in your business, in this industry, just grown and made for people to do crazier things?
Well, in our business, we certainly try to monitor how our clients engage with social media. And we also caution them that too much social media is not necessarily a good thing. I think as much as it keeps us connected and informed, there are those so-called influencers who may do things just to get a few more likes, a bit more attention. And I think when those things happen and people see them, they can inadvertently be exposed to what I would almost call vicarious trauma, where someone witnesses or experiences someone else's misfortune, and they begin to have their own visceral gut reaction to it. When you see someone getting hurt and it's sort of a comedic thing, I think on some level, we all feel the pain of the person who's vulnerable or injured.
Okay, but Dr. Bonds, let's go a bit deeper here. What triggers deep trauma? Like, what in our childhood past could trigger, let's say, an outburst like we saw on the stage at the Oscars with Will Smith and Chris Rock?
Well, it would be wrong for me to speculate about Mr. Smith's actions in particular. I haven't had the opportunity to talk with him. But what I can say globally is that trauma is something that can be reactivated. What we call post-traumatic stress disorder, one of the components of that is having a reactivation of a past trauma. When something happens in one's daily life that reminds them of something very painful from their past, be it a slight that happened emotionally or neglect, or it could be that someone physically was wounded. For example, those who've had domestic violence or combat violence, something reminds you of that, and it can take you back to that place where you were however many years ago very quickly. And the typical reactions, one can notice episodes of increased breathing, faster heart rate, feeling flushed. All of those things are triggers of what we call flashbacks or reactivation of a past trauma, and it can really take you emotionally back to the same place that it happened before.
Dr. Bonds, I'm going to speak for black folks around this country. I remember growing up, I grew up in a very diverse area, and I'd have my white high school friends, and they'd, oh man, I had therapy today, or I went to see a therapist, and we would be like, whoa, what? Like, whoa, are you crazy? What's wrong? And then now you're starting to see this destigmatized. You're starting to see black and brown people saying, you know what? I need to go see therapy, have therapy. Not that anything's wrong with me, just because. Check in on my mental health. And folks seem to be more aware of this and really engaging in this. I don't know if it's happy or just, proud are you, this moment where we're seeing people awaken and realizing this is for all people and everyone needs to check in on their mental health?
You couldn't be more right. And behind me is the number for our helpline, 1-800-854-7771. And we cross all color lines and all cultures. We try to make sure that we can address people in whatever place they are. There are helplines and support lines that you can access, all up to crisis intervention. And I think now there's been less stigma around help seeking. In fact, that's one of the positive things that's happened as a result of social media. People are sharing their experiences of being in therapy and talking with someone, because this. I think at this point, we need to all be moving forward to see how we can heal from some of these things that have happened. Unfortunately, we have something called trauma-informed care, where the starting point of the conversation isn't what's wrong with you, but what happened to you? And we move on from there. And that's where we need to be moving now.
Well, thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us and lending us your vital voice this morning. We appreciate you, and I know our viewers can get a lot out of your insight. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you again. Have a great day.
I mean, I guess that's a silver lining, right? We get to see these outbursts, whether they be at school board meetings or, over masks or the pandemic. We've seen so much outbursts or on the Oscar stage. At least we're having conversations about what triggers, not just the obvious, drama of the moment, but what triggers outbursts like this? Why would it be so self-sabotaging in so many instances?
But you do mention things like on the airplane, things like at school meetings. I do think there's a difference between being insensitive or or being I don't want to say a brat, but just having a moment. And also, again, we're talking about having breakdowns. And some folks just need to relax. Okay, you're on a point.
Checking in emotionally, looking at your mental health. These are all positive things to combat what's happening.
Enjoy my flight.